On this episode of In an Instant, we are going to break down every camera currently made by Polaroid to see which one might be right for you. From the baby doinker known as the Polaroid Go to the heavy-hitting i2, there's arguably a camera for everyone. Arguably. Okay, let's start arguing.
The kind of photography that would become part of the human being. Press a button and have the picture.
Welcome to In an Instant. My name is Ben, and before me sits the entire Polaroid camera lineup. Since 2016, Polaroid resumed production of instant cameras after a quick bout of not existing. The return hailed the impossible Project I1, before the company rebranded to Polaroid Originals and debuted the One Step series. Now, as once again simply Polaroid, the company has a fixed stable of cameras that they periodically update in generations. These cameras are the Go, Now, Now Plus, Flip, and i2. And these are ostensibly in order of cost and features. There also exist 5 decades of cameras that predate the current European Polaroid company, which we'll briefly touch on as they still factor into many people's decisions as to what direction to go in for shooting the world's favorite square format. We'll break these puppies down by cost, features, skill level, and my favorite subjective category, vibes, where I can give my humble take on how these various cameras have performed for me personally, with vibes remaining an essential metric for how people make decisions in 2026. We will also wrap up with a direct image comparison from all models. First, let's start with the Go, a cute baby child. Unlike the rest of the cameras we'll discuss, this one shoots an entirely different format. Go film is square, like your classic Polaroid, but half the size, establishing itself as the itsy-bitsy king of tiny whinies. Introduced 5 years ago, the Go camera has received one generational update, and the current Gen 2 model packs a surprising amount of features in this diminutive package. With a selfie mirror, double exposure mode, a self-timer, and a variety of incredibly adorable accessories, this camera is great for beginners. However, due to the higher skill level necessary to take a proper Polaroid, it still requires a fundamental understanding of technique to take a decent picture with it. If you want to learn more about how to do all that, I have a video for you. You know I got your sweet buns covered. At $80 USD, it's the cheapest of the options available. And if you're able to master it, you can master almost anything. Even the notoriously challenging butterfly swimming stroke. In terms of vibes, the Go receives 4 out of 5 stars, as it's almost solely coasting on vibes alone. On to the standard Polaroid film, and the hardware Polaroid produces to support it. These 4 cameras are compatible with their I-type film stock. Unlike 600 film, which is the same chemistry as I-type film does not contain a battery, which is otherwise required to power their vintage cameras. So one benefit of getting outfitted with one of these modern rechargeable cameras is that it saves quite a bit of cost over time, versus trying to revive grandma's poor old One Step. The most entry-level model is the Polaroid Now, a camera I would say is mostly adequate, and it's probably the most well-suited for a true beginner. At $110, it's the cheapest way in for the standard Polaroid frame, and like its baby brother, the Now has double exposure, a self-timer, a selfie mirror, and an additional essential feature, exposure compensation. This allows you to force the camera to use a faster or slower shutter speed to make the resulting image brighter or darker. For a format such as Polaroid, with little margin for error, it's a useful tool for refining your images. The Now has a 2-element lens, which switches automatically via an infrared sensor on board. One lens is meant for close-ups, and the other for everything else. I would advise that the Now doesn't provide much room for growth, as its almost fully automatic disposition works well for flash photos and images in ideal light, but it lacks any further control that can help you really refine your skills over time. For that reason only, it receives 2.5 vibe stars, with that extra half coming from all the awesome colors it's available in. We got a bunch of these for our wedding in different colorways, and it was positively delightful to see the barrage of insane photos guests capture with them. But as you can see, with many of these images taken by first-time users, it doesn't exactly produce the most winning results without some learned skill. Before we continue, I'd like to thank the sponsor of this video, Skillshare. Skillshare has creative classes taught by world-class professionals like professional illustrators, renowned graphic designers, and successful entrepreneurs. It's the best place to learn a creative skill or pick up a new hobby. If you're looking to reconnect with your creativity and maybe avoid brain rot and doom scrolling, Skillshare is where humans come to learn from other humans. One of my favorite species. I checked out Eddie Leong's Mastering Composition course, as I myself am preparing to craft a video about how to get the best out of Polaroid. I think when many people jump to Polaroid, they expect a level of ease because it can be a point-and-shoot process. But in reality, to take a well-exposed, impactful Polaroid, you first need to learn the fundamentals of light, color, and composition. This class really helped me sublimate my ideas and get to thinking about how I would guide someone through the multifaceted challenge of making a photo you can be proud to hold in your hands. The first 500 people to use my link in the description or scan the QR code will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Thanks again to Skillshare. This channel is not often ad supported, and it makes a huge difference to have them on board for this video. So please go ahead and sign up to support in an instant and yourself. You deserve to grow as a person. Thank you, Skillshare. I love you and I'm in love with you. Next up on the rung is the Now Plus, which is like the Now but with a different brain inside. Its boosted frontal lobe provides the same set of features on board, but with a hugely expanded range of Bluetooth features, including a remote shutter, fine-tunable self-timer, aperture priority where you can choose an f-stop and the camera selects the optimal shutter speed, tripod mode for longer exposures, light painting for long exposure effects, and a full manual mode, where you can get wonderfully specific about your various settings. In its third generation, the camera is $40 more expensive than the Now. And at this point you might be asking, why would I care about all these Bluetooth features? I'm using a camera, not phone. I want to take pictures with analog camera. I don't like phone, that's why I bought this damn doinkling. Well, you might think that, but honestly, some of the most fun I've ever had shooting Polaroid was throwing a Now Plus on a tripod and experimenting with its manual features. It's in these moments that you're digging deep into exposure settings, thinking about your composition, thinking about the light, doing all the things you normally should be doing, but actually having a measure of control over the result. Vibes are insane when I'm up in that business, giving the Now Plus 3.5 out of 5 stars. In 2025, Polaroid set out to provide an intermediate tier for the lineup, with the Polaroid Flip. The Flip ups the optical elements to 4, providing the potential for much sharper images than the Now, as its 4 elements have to cover less ground than the Now's set of 2. It also revived a beloved feature of the past, sonar autofocus, which sends a ping out from this honeycomb module to inform the camera where to focus. At $220, it's a bit more premium than the Now Plus, and has discernibly better build quality, bolstered by its clamshell design, which makes it the most durable of the whole lineup. The flash is also stronger than the Now, and aside from that and the quad cadre of lenses, its onboard features are otherwise the same, with double exposure, self-timer, and exposure comp, with the litany of Bluetooth features accessible via the Polaroid app. What I will say now may disturb you, but I actually prefer the Now Plus over the Flip. With an additional year of use since I first reviewed the Flip, I found that the sonar autofocus feature and its light meter can trend toward more misfires than are even possible on the Now Plus, which itself is simply thinking less every time you hit the shutter. There is a larger margin of error with how the Flip operates, and I miss focus more than twice as often than with the Now, which only has to determine if a subject is close or not. Though the Flip is an undoubtedly nicer camera, it demands higher skill and sometimes even better luck to achieve good pictures. It can definitely take higher quality images than the Now series and can be sort of stunningly good, but with not enough consistency for me to give it the vibe bump it otherwise deserves. As a footnote, the Flip's flash mode does have the added benefit of slow sync exposure, meaning it can expose for the room you're in as well as the flash power on the subject. As a pure flash shooting camera, if that's what you would tend to use it for, that's where it would definitely beat the Now Plus. And now we reach the final boss of Polaroid's modern lineup, the Polaroid i2. To get this out of the way immediately, the camera is $600, substantially more expensive than anything else in this lineup. But that's because it's truly the professional grade option for people wanting the best possible quality and most control over the instant film experience. Unlike the Now Plus and Flip, the i2's features are entirely on board, with additional Bluetooth options, but this camera functions as a far more capable standalone camera. You don't need phone. Its lens is drastically superior to others in the lineup, with continuous LiDAR autofocusing that can pinpoint with the smallest margins where to focus the lens, resulting in the sharpest results you can get on a Polaroid frame. While these features demand the skills required to wield them properly, it also functions well on auto mode, with a tactile, broader range of exposure compensation on the lens. When people ask me what Polaroid camera I recommend, I first ask, do you have $600 rattling around in your sock drawer? Because if so, the i2 blows the rest of the lineup out of the water. I understand new users may laugh at this price, but I'd urge you to consider that a high quality camera simply costs this much, or often far more. This one just happens to be Polaroid compatible. The difference in cost between the Flip and i2 is the cost of 20 packs of film, which is a lot. But over the years, you might wish you put the initial investment toward the better camera, with Polaroid being a razor and blade model, in that you ultimately spend a lot more on the film over time than the initial camera purchase. Before we take a trip back in time and look at the vintage camera options, let's take a peek at a direct image comparison between all 5 of these models. I will use the available settings on board to make the best exposure possible. The Go image is obviously softer, and Go film is more tempestuous, leading to less accurate colors. Like the Go shot, the Now frame couldn't be manually metered for, and its result is less dialed than the Now Plus image, which is pretty clean. But with its maximum f11 aperture, the background separation is not as pleasing as one might hope. The Flip's wider f9 lens produces better background separation, and the image is noticeably sharper than the Now. The i2's wider f8 lens produces the best result. But I imagine most people are waffling between the Now series and the Flip, so make of this what you will. And I assure you that it would be nice to make of it what you will. Finally, let's consider your vintage camera options. We'll do a little speed run through these. There are essentially 2 classifications for vintage Polaroid consumer integral cameras: the folding SLRs, like the SX70 and SLR680, and the plastic lens box or clamshell cameras, like the Sun 660, Impulse, 600, One Step, Pronto. They go by many names, but essentially produce the same quality image. Older models shoot the slower speed SX70 film. Those cameras are to be avoided entirely in my opinion, but they are mostly 600 compatible. Some have autofocus, a close-up lens, and more lens elements, but all provide mostly the same user experience and result. They're very inexpensive and built for seamless automatic shooting, with controls for exposure compensation and flash override, but that's pretty much it. They're pretty great depending on the look you're going for, and definitely a vibe, great with flash, and are sharp enough for Polaroid film. These vintage cameras are akin to the Now and Flip. I would recommend those modern cameras in this category, as you could end up saving a lot on film shooting the less expensive I-type. But if you're set on getting a vintage camera for cheap, my faves are the Sun 660 and Impulse AF, the latter of which can't be used without flash. Strobe bros only. Then there are the folding SLRs, chief among them being the Polaroid SX70. It's the crown jewel of Polaroid and goes toe-to-toe with the i2 in terms of optical quality, though its gorgeous folding SLR design assuredly beats the i2 in terms of the vibes we keep mentioning. And it's a bit of a different shooting experience. Unlike the i2, the SX70 exposes automatically, with controls for exposure compensation and manual focus. But the camera is so damn good that the auto nature of it doesn't really matter, and it has a frictionless functionality that is most true to the original vision for what the Polaroid experience could be. For maximum usability, the SX70 needs to be refurbished, and most prefer to have them converted to use the higher speed 600 film. And these costs can add up to about $670-ish, although the non-autofocus base version can be had for much cheaper. I am a true lover of the Polaroid machine, and as you might have surmised using your eyes, I own most variations of them. My personal kit usually includes both the i2 and the SX70, since the SX70 can be used more easily with filters and more empty brain shooting than the i2, which I always use on manual mode. The Go comes out for parties and when I want to spray and pray, and the Now Plus sometimes emerges exclusively for vibes, and I love it enough that it finds its way back into my hands every now and again. The Sun 660 and Impulse are mostly shelf queens at this point, but being some of the first cameras I ever used as a child, they fill a soft spot in my heart for special occasions. It's always a good idea to fill the softest part of your heart, otherwise I don't know if it'll keep beating. Edwin Land might not have imagined that this murderer's row would be extending his legacy deep into the 21st century, but against all odds, these pups carry modern Polaroid film into the future. If you have additional questions, please pop down into those comments, and thank you for watching. In an instant, please carefully make a measured decision and press that subscribe button. Just donk it. Stay tuned for more reviews, shoots, breakdowns, and all things instant. Bye.